Well, hello there good people, and welcome back again to another RunCam Split, the V1, since I've been going at that one since I've had it. And hopefully this is going to be the last part. We'll call it RunCam Split Part 3, the revenge of the RunCam Split. So what I'm still struggling with, or have been still struggling with, is getting this jello free on a regular quad. And from my last video I tried loads of tuning on my Martian 3, and I kind of decided that yeah, maybe there was a little wobble there, but that really translated into massive vibrations from this camera. Now a couple of guys have talked about, oh, it might be the actual lens in the RunCam Split. I changed mine over, it was better. Come back to that in a second. So the first thing I want to do is make sure I actually had a really smooth quad to fly on. And you may have seen in a previous video, I last used this on an AKK review. I've got the Lift RC 5-inch quad. I've used it for loads of things. It's really smooth flying. I used it on all the tutorial flying videos I did. It's very stable on both the FPV cam. It carries a GoPro really nicely. I've always loved it because it's got this really tiny gap between the base and top plate. So it was really compact, and that meant that you couldn't actually put a proper camera in there. It's this is what it was running, this tiny little thing, a little CMOS thing, a luminaire type, I had to fit in there. So in order to get the RunCam Split in there, I had to change things, which I didn't like doing. Basically I had to create space to get the RunCam Split in the stack and the camera fitted in. And the only way I could think of doing this is to butcher parts of an old ZMR frame and put that in. And I don't feel good about it. This is the result. And I feel like I've defiled my lovely quad with bits of horrible ZMR things. Even then, it's a little bit of a struggle because this lens barely squeezes in between the two standoffs here. But you know, it fitted in. I've still got my rubber washers in there to act as a vibration dampening of sorts. I know it flies well, so I took it out and flew. Now I should say this was the second iteration. I actually started off with these normal props, or the normal props it uses. These are Dow 5045 bullnose props. The reason I use these ones is like, oh, welcome to 2 years ago when people were using two-bladed props, is the tolerances were so tight that anything other than these would hit the standoffs in the normal frame. But where the frame has grown, after flying these, I thought, hey, maybe these King Kong 5040 3-blade props would be smoother. I mean, that was the idea, they were supposed to be. But let's go and have a look at what happened. Hey, what was that? Let's chase it. Yep, so this is my first flight on the horrifically modified Lift RC quad with the RunCam Split in it, and I was out flying with a bunch of guys, including Daryl, who brought his Skywalker Mini along. So an excellent chase subject, because so easy to see in the sky compared to a quad, especially against grass. In fact, absolutely simple. This was quite an overcast day, which is always going to make things quite difficult for most cameras, so quite useful to test this. But at the same time I'm thinking, it was quite dim that day, and that kind of acts like its own ND filter. And on the subject of ND filters, I noticed RC Shim talked about the use of those, but when I had a look at the ones he was suggesting, it's practically as much as a whole new RunCam Split, so I don't see that as being a real credible fix for it. Anyway, I could tell from my live feed that this was a lot smoother, and to be honest, it's what I expected, because this was a super smooth quad. It's silky really, and I really did enjoy flying it. Yeah, until I changed it over to this camera, and then it just looked horrible. But the recorded footage it's getting is pretty good. It's not perfect by any means. It's got the op wobble in there, and you can see a bit of that jello on the occasion. As far as this chase goes, we had a good old time going all around the field until Daryl decided to hit this tree. Don't think I didn't see you do that, Daryl. But great fun, and nice to get a little plane out here on this field. Perfect sort of sized plane for this one. I was really quite impressed. The Skywalker Mini, by the way, is one of the things I filmed an intro for a little series I got, Will It Still Fly? It's been one of my planes that I've really had problems with, so I will be trying to get mine in the air at some point.
But I digress. Now, the reason I was saying this is so hateful is when you take a look at my DVR footage here. Look at that. It's just horrible. I mean, yeah, some of the noise possibly is coming from somewhere else, although I've heard tale of the Split being very upset depending on the sort of voltage it's getting through. But yeah, this is muddy and washed out, and I can't really pick up any detail, and I didn't like it whatsoever. Like I said, this was quite a struggle for most cameras, but let's do a quick comparison here against my little 110mm Fira frame I was flying with the RunCam MicroSwift. That is what you call proper view, and it's basically what I expect from an FPV camera these days. So what I hoped the Split would be was this FPV view with the ability to record HD and not have jello all over the place. So I filmed that previous flight a week or so ago because I wanted to go out into the sunlight and see what effect that would have. Now, I probably did a bit of a silly thing here, which was I changed those props over from those Dal 5045 bullnose to the King Kong 5040s, and I could instantly feel that actually, whilst I was expecting the 5040s to be smoother, they weren't. So I should have just changed one thing, i.e. the sunlight, but instead I changed two things. So I don't really get an impression of was the ND filter effect having a place there, because I think I'm getting wobbles back from these props. But it was enough for me to say, actually, I just can't be bothered with this RunCam Split anymore. Everything is just too much hassle, and no, just no. I'm just spending too much time messing around trying to get this flying nicely when I could be out having fun flying decent quads that didn't, you know, have me trying to babysit them and try and coax them into simple little things. And DVR in the sunlight, you know, it could be dusk. It's so sort of dark and washed out and noisy and horrific in terms of detail. Hate it. Hate it. And again, this was a day where I was also testing another quad. I was flying my B-Flight 210, which I recently put a review up. Here's the flight before that RunCam Split flight, and you can see, oh look, sunlight. That's what it looks like for a camera. That's what it's supposed to look like. RunCam, please take note.
Right, so what's my verdict then? You know, I try to be honest in my reviews, and I also try and be constructive. In the case of this, I hate it. I've come to really despise the whole system of the RunCam Split. The idea for me, and you know, correct me if I've misunderstood it, is this was going to be a brilliant HD camera which would also work as a brilliant FPV camera, and you can just slot it in your existing quad and it would be awesome. As an FPV camera, it's crap. It's all washed out, the image judders, you get no detail. As a recording camera, it's crap. It's the vibrations it can get from the smallest things is just outrageous, and the amount of hoops you have to jump through to get it right and get it vibration free, it's just not worth it. The time I've spent trying to get this right, you know, I could have been out begging on the streets and had enough money to buy a couple of GoPro sessions to put on by now. So because, as I mentioned, a couple of the guys that watched the last video were kind enough to email me about changing over the lens, I thought I'd email RunCam about this. I gave them a video to watch and I explained the problem, and I got basically, you know, a set response: do this. Obviously they get this question a lot, but just the fact they suggested in point 2 here I make a soft mounting for the Split's lens module was crazy in itself. And they talk about soft mounting your motors and upgrading all parts of your quad. I mean, the thing's supposed to be a drop-in replacement. I don't think you should have to do that. I think RunCam have rushed this to market. They had the threat of litigation on the RunCam 3, or the was it the RunCam HD? Oh, the square box one, the one that looks like the GoPro Session. They were going to be sued by GoPro, so they took it away. They quickly cobbled together this, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. Perhaps it works for you guys, and you know, full power to you. Well done. And a bunch of guys I know were saying, you know, I'm running this on a plane. It works pretty well. And you know, it'll be easier to sort out on a plane. You don't have the really low latency you need to be flying a quad. It's much easier to get a plane smooth because you've only got one motor and prop to balance up and get smooth. And you've got all that nice foam around it to pad it out. But for me and mini quads, I'm taking this out and I'm putting my nice quad back together. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the split. You know, perhaps miracles might happen and they might get it right at some point. For me, it's hopeless. I don't want it anymore and I've wasted too much time on it. So my recommendation is ignore the split. I think it's crap. I don't think the RunCam Split 2 is going to help because they haven't changed enough of the design. So yeah, avoid is my opinion. Sorry. Catch you next time.